All right, I think we can go ahead and get started. We're going to do a little housekeeping in the beginning, so if folks are coming on late, it's not that big a deal. As I said, it's been a while since we've had these webinars. We started doing a lot of webinars when the pandemic hit, and we've been trying to provide a lot of professional development for you folks through webinars. We did take a break over the summer and the early fall to help us get ready for our conference. As a lot of you know, our conference was in San Antonio, Texas, or was supposed to be, and it got postponed. So we're still looking at when we're going to have that rescheduled. But in the meantime, we're picking up our webinar offerings once again. And we've got a great one today. Gerardo and Amber are going to be talking about Citizenshipworks. It's a fantastic website that makes applying for citizenship easy, safe, and accessible to most anybody. They're going to tell you a lot more about that a little bit later. Just to remind you, we are recording. In about a week, we will send a follow-up email with links to the webinar recording. Gerardo has agreed to share the slideshow, which has some great resources included in it. So you'll get that. They also have some additional material, some flyers and some videos about how to create accounts that you'll be able to use if you want to share this with other tutors and teachers in your program. You'll be able to have some materials to help you do that. We'll include a transcript of the chat, and everybody that's attending today will also get a certificate. We're going to ask you that you use the chat to introduce yourselves, which a lot of you have already done. If there are links that during the discussion or the presentation you think would be helpful for other attendees, you can drop those in the chat and share them with everybody. You can ask questions to the group. So that's kind of how we'll share and kind of communicate with the group. We will ask you that if you have questions for Gerardo and Amber about the presentation, that you use the Q&A feature of Zoom to post those questions. So you'll click on that, a window will pop up, you can type in your question, and that just helps us make sure that everybody's question gets answered. Gerardo, they've agreed to kind of stick around. We'll stop at the top of the hour. But they've agreed to stick around and make sure everybody's question gets answered. So even if you have to leave at the top of the hour, as long as you've got your question in, we'll get to ask that question and it'll get recorded. And then when you get the link to the recording in about a week, you'll get to hear the answer. Okay? All right. So our presenters today are Gerardo Ramos. He's a senior associate in immigration. And Amber Mull is the Deputy Director in Immigration. Both of them work for the International Rescue Committee. And I'm going to turn it over to Gerardo, who's going to share his screen, and he's going to go ahead and get started with the presentation. So Gerardo, I'm going to stop sharing and let you start sharing your screen. There we go. We can see that perfectly. And Gerardo, I think you and Amber need to unmute yourself. There you go.
There you go. Thank you so much for the introduction, Todd. My name is Gerardo Ramos. I am a senior associate in immigration with the International Rescue Committee. And today we're going to talk about the Citizenship Hub, which is assistance for citizenship application. Before we get started, I just want to give a huge thank you to our partners at Pro Literacy for providing this opportunity to present to you all. And thank you all for joining. So on to the next slide. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the International Rescue Committee, who we are. We're going to chat about the IRC Immigration. We're going to go into details on what the Citizenship Hub is and Citizenshipworks as well. How Citizenshipworks can be used in a classroom setting, and give a short presentation on the Citizenshipworks from a student perspective, so the sign-up process, and share Citizenship Hub Resources. Lastly, we will be sharing partnership information. So the International Rescue Committee responds to the world's worst humanitarian crises and helps people whose lives and livelihoods are shattered by conflict and disaster to survive, recover, and gain control of their future. In more than 40 countries and over 20 US cities, our dedicated teams provide clean water, shelter, healthcare, education, and empowerment support to refugees and displaced peoples. Across our US offices, IRC offers programs in resettlement, economic empowerment, health, safety and well-being, anti-trafficking, new routes, food security and agriculture, youth services, and immigration. So 23 IRC offices across the United States offer immigration legal services by Department of Justice accredited representatives and attorneys. Depending on their capacity and the needs of the community, each office may offer assistance in completing and case management with citizenship, green card, adjustment of status, travel documents, DACA renewals, employment authorizations, family petitions, fiancé visas, removal of conditions, on green cards issued based off of marriage, and asylum and removal defense. So what is the Citizenship Hub? The Citizenship Hub is a national remote service that links naturalization applicants with legal practitioners. The Citizenship Hub is a project of the New Americans campaign led by the International Rescue Committee. The Citizenship Hub is a project that we launched in March that helps support more legal permanent residents becoming naturalized citizens by partnering with legal service providers to support their work and partnering with non-legal service providers to expand access to legal services for legal permanent residents in underserved areas. The Citizenship Hub supports both naturalization applicants and the organizations who serve them in a few key ways. First, it acts as a centralized point of access for services, streamlining the process of referring people who need help with their naturalization applications and helping make sure they are connected with a quality legal provider. Secondly, the Citizenship Hub can expand access to naturalization services for people in areas of the country that are underserved by connecting them with a legal provider in another city or state. Thirdly, it assists naturalization applicants in completing the Form N-400, combating gaps in digital literacy, and allowing legal practitioners to focus on legal review services. Our naturalization services are completed using Citizenshipworks. Citizenshipworks is a free, secure, online user-friendly service that guides clients through the naturalization process and is run by Pro Bono Net Immigration Advocates Network. Citizenshipworks provides an initial eligibility screening, which we then verify when connecting with clients. So I have a quick question, and if you can just type in the chat, how many of you are already familiar with Citizenshipworks or use Citizenshipworks? Okay, I'm seeing a lot of no's. Vaguely. Okay, there are some requirements in order to use Citizenshipworks. Students need internet access and a valid mobile phone number or email. You can access Citizenshipworks through either a computer or a smartphone. So how it works? In a classroom setting, instructors can set time aside during class and assist students in creating a Citizenshipworks account. The Citizenshipworks portal link can be shared with students, and sign up can be completed outside of the classroom as well. What are some benefits? So students become familiar with the Form N400. It can help improve computer literacy. Students with questions are connected to legal experts, as sometimes instructors get legal questions they can't answer. And the Citizenship Hub is a place to refer students where they are connected with legal experts. It's also an opportunity to engage volunteers, and they can also assist with creating a Citizenshipworks account. So Citizenshipworks. And Amber, feel free to share the Citizenshipworks portal link. This is our Citizenshipworks portal link. This page shares information about the Citizenship Hub. If you scroll down, there's this 3-step outline, which with information about answering simple questions using our free online service, accessing free or low-cost legal help with your application, and mailing your application when you are ready and prepare for your citizenship interview. Once you read those, you can click Start Now to go on to the next page. So this is the whole sign-up process that we're going to go over right now. This page asks if you qualify for citizenship. And if you qualify, you can create a free Citizenshipworks account, complete your form, and connect with legal help. When you click Continue, you'll be asked additional questions just to make sure you are eligible to apply. So here, please read the About This Interview section. Just make sure you understand that this tool is not legal advice, and you agree to the terms of use and privacy policy. Once you check the box, the Continue icon should pop up, and we can move over to the next page. So again, more information. This section will ask about your age and gender. Go ahead and include your date of birth and gender to move on. Next, you're asked to include the country of birth and nationality. Once those are added, you can click Continue. This next section will ask if you live in the United States at the moment. And the second question will appear asking for the zip code. And lastly, have you lived in this home for at least 3 months? You can click on the why is this important questions for more details on why these questions are important in regards to the citizenship application. The next question will ask if you have a green card and if you are a lawful permanent resident. The next question will be, how long have you been a lawful permanent resident? Generally speaking, individuals that have had their green cards for 4 years and 9 months may be eligible to apply. There are some exceptions that we will not go into right now. The category of the green card is also asked. However, it is optional to include. We move on. This section will ask about marital status. Important to include, to click whichever one would apply. Depending on the bubble that is clicked, additional questions may pop up. For these purposes, I am clicking single, never married. And that's what you'll see in the next slide, which lets me move on to the next slide regarding U.S. military service. Again, important to include whatever is relevant in this situation for the client. I click no. Have you ever been in the U.S. military? Again, I click no. And perfect. We've made it through the initial screening, and it looks like we may be eligible to apply for citizenship. As shown on the screen, I've been a lawful permanent resident for 5 or more years. There are other questions that need to be answered before submitting the application. So the next step will be to create a free Citizenshipworks account to complete the form N400 and connect with legal help. So we continue. So to start your Citizenshipworks application, you'll be asked, and to create the account, you'll be asked for your first name, last name, a valid email or phone number. Next, a password will be asked, and your state and preferred language for notifications. At this point, we are very close to finishing signing up for a Citizenshipworks account. The client will receive a code to either the email or the phone number, and that will depend on what you use to sign up. And this is what the notification will look like, either to your email or a text message. We will use the code to verify the account, which on the previous slide, you would include here. Once you verify your account, you will be directed to the Citizenshipworks login page. For this, you use the same email or phone number and password created to sign in. Well, once you sign in, there will be a IRC service agreement pop-up. Please read it carefully. When you have read it, you click join. After clicking join, a second pop-up will appear with a welcome to Citizenshipworks message. Click and read through those. Once you are finished, you will be able to access the Citizenshipworks account, and the N400 form should be available. So this is what the Citizenshipworks account looks like once you have logged in. As you can see, in this account setting on the left corner, instead of Citizenship Hub IRC, the client would see their name, the completion of the application, if there are any messages, and where you can start how this works, the documents and information needed, and when ready, the application can be started. Important to note, if there are any Citizenshipworks issues, you can reach out to Sandra Sandoval and America Morales, which are our partners over at Citizenshipworks. They are able to address any issues and are also available for Citizenshipworks trainings. So what happens after a client signs up? We've gone over the sign-up process for Citizenshipworks. A client has an account set up and is ready to begin their application and can begin completing their application. So where does the Citizenship Hub come in play? So the Citizenship Hub staff will receive a notification that an individual has signed up for Citizenshipworks. Citizenship Hub staff will then connect with the client and offer offer application assistance to complete their citizenship application. So Citizenship Hub staff will share a link to Calendly, where individuals are able to schedule their own appointments. They look at the available times and dates and schedule a 60-minute meeting. If those 60 minutes are not enough, depending on the Citizenship Hub staff availability, the meeting can be extended. If Citizenship Hub staff are not available to extend the meeting right there and then, a follow-up appointment can be scheduled. Appointments between Citizenship Hub staff and clients are completed virtually via Microsoft Teams, or alternatively can be completed through a phone call. What happens if there are red flags after that initial screening while completing the citizenship application? So clients may have passed the initial citizenship screening. If any red flags show up while the client is completing their application, Citizenship Hub staff will review the red flags and connect with a DOJ Department of Justice accredited representative. The accredited representative may request to meet with the client and offer legal advice. If the case turns out to be complex and better suited outside of the Citizenship Hub, Citizenship Hub staff will provide appropriate referrals. If there are no red flags, Citizenship Hub staff will then review the Form N-400 for completion. Citizenship Hub staff will connect the client with a legal provider for the legal review of their application. Very important to note that all communication is directly between Citizenship Hub staff and the client. IRC and the Citizenship Hub are not affiliated with the US government and will not be sharing any of the client's information without the client's consent. Citizenship Hub resources. We have created several resources for the Citizenship Hub. We do have flyers and videos in both English and Spanish, which are our current language capacities. We are creating a list of civic and ESL classes that we are sharing with clients that are interested. If you would like to be added, please send us an email. That email will be provided at the end of this presentation. If you are interested in becoming a Citizenship Hub partner, all we ask is that you complete a quick partnership form. This form asks for the name or organization, name of a contact person, and that email of the contact person. So why is the Citizenship Hub and Citizenshipworks helpful? First, it's really easy to read the form, the N400 form, and complete it. It can improve computer literacy. It does offer that pre-screening that checks initial eligibility. Red flags are addressed by immigration experts. Students with questions are connected to legal experts as well. And we have a collection of resources available. And here you can find our contact information.
Great. And Gerardo, we did have a bunch of questions. Amber's actually answered a lot of them, but I think some of them are, I think it would be good to kind of ask them again and let Amber or you answer them for the group as a whole. So I'm going to go down through those, and either you or Amber, either one can answer these. The first question was from Cassia, who asked, what's the difference between a refugee and a displaced person? And
thanks, Todd, and I can take this one. So it's a great question, and a refugee is a legal term. So under U.S. law, there is a definition of what a refugee is, and that is a particular status that people apply for with the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services and DHS. And the definition is that that person has been forced to leave their country because of persecution or a well-founded fear of persecution based on one of 5 grounds. And those 5 grounds are race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or membership in a particular group. A refugee is someone who has been forced to leave because of persecution on one of those 5 grounds. A displaced person is not a legal status in the United States. And so it's a more general term. It typically refers to someone who has been forced to leave their home because of war or persecution, like a refugee, but also potentially because of a natural disaster or another major life event that causes them to flee. There are also internally displaced people who might be displaced within their own country, which also is a little bit different than a refugee. A refugee has to be displaced from their home country. And so a refugee is a displaced person, but a displaced person is not necessarily a refugee. So I hope that answers that question, but it's a great one.
Yeah, I think that was really helpful to clarify. Another question from Cheryl was, has it been your experience about hesitancy, or have you seen any hesitancy in filling out personal information, especially for people who may not be legally in the country? And you had a good response to that, if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So if someone's in the U.S. and they are undocumented, then they won't actually be eligible for U.S. citizenship. To be eligible for U.S. citizenship, you do have to have lawful permanent residency, also known as having a green card. So that's a prerequisite. So someone without status isn't going to be using Citizenshipworks. They're not going to be eligible. They would be screened out in those initial questions that Gerardo showed and that's prior to creating an account or giving any personal, information other than like maybe an email or phone number. I did put a link to IMMI.org, which is a website operated and built by the same people who built Citizenshipworks. And it is a safe, secure website, online tool for people to kind of put in some initial questions to try to get an idea of a screening of whether or not they would be eligible, and then to be eligible for certain forms of immigration relief to get status, and then to be able to access a list of service providers, legal service providers in their area to be able to connect with. So that tool is there. Just in general, I think, we have, and Gerardo can speak to this too, but we have seen overall people have a high comfort level because we connect with them. Gerardo reaches out to them, they meet, so they see the person, they may be familiar with our organization. If they're being referred through an organization that they know, there's that trust factor there, and that's one reason why we really appreciate the partnership model that we have, is because we're able to connect with folks and have them referred in from a known partner and trusted service provider, and to say, okay, this is a trusted way. We have had people who say, I really don't want to put my social security number on here. And we say, that's fine. You don't have to put it online, but when you print it out, make sure to put it in there. And so we can work with people, with their hesitances where they are, as long as we have the information we needed to be able to do a thorough legal review.
And Amber, when you're saying when you print it out, make sure you put your social security number on there, you mean when they've completed the N400 form online and then print it out so they can see the copy to send in, to make sure their social security number is on there. That's
exactly. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. There was another question. If someone helps someone fill out an N400 form, that is considered practicing law and should only be done by accredited individuals. How is helping someone fill out the Citizenshipworks questions different? What if someone with good intentions helps someone fill out these questions incorrectly?
Yes. And thank you for this question, because one of the goals of the Citizenship Hub is to help make sure that people have access to authorized legal practitioners to assist with their application and to answer any questions. So the Citizenshipworks platform is a great tool because it enables this remote service. And it has those screening questions that a person can kind of fill in. And so it says, okay, if you've only had your green card for 1 year, you're probably not eligible. You're not eligible for citizenship. What Gerardo is doing when he's working with that individual is making sure that we've got the information needed for a legal practitioner to be able to do that legal review, answer those questions, and complete the form with the individual on behalf of the individual. As Gerardo described in the process, if there is a red flag that appears, a person enters the question, and Gerardo is not giving advice on how to answer the questions. He's saying, hey, you've got 4 children. We've only got 3 of their names. Can you put the 4th name in? So he's making sure that, okay, the information is there. The person's entered it. When a red flag does come up, I am a DOJ accredited representative. And so I'll go in and look at what the red flag is, meet with the applicant, be able to do that research and provide that legal advice. Then when, if there isn't a red flag, they've got all their information there, we can connect them with a legal practitioner who is authorized to practice law, and they can complete that application with the applicant.
Okay, so if I can kind of summarize that, when the applicant is going through that initial screening, that's just a screening, and the tutor or teacher might help them kind of fill that out. That's not part of the N400 form. But once that screening takes place, the part that Gerardo was talking about, where you set up a Calendly meeting and there's someone there to help them go through and fill out the N400 form, that's someone who is actually an accredited person authorized to help someone fill out that N400 form.
So that's correct, except that the Calendly appointments are with Gerardo, and
they're with Gerardo. Okay,
right. He's not accredited. Those appointments are just to say, hey, we need 5 years of employment. We've got 3. One of the reasons that we have this process is because a lot of folks that we found aren't that comfortable with technology, maybe don't have a high computer literacy. And so just filling out the form poses a barrier, and legal practitioners spending time just walking through the computer steps with someone isn't, maximizing their expertise as a legal practitioner. And so this really allows them to focus on the legal content and piece of it, and allows applicants access to someone who can walk through the technology pieces of it and filling in that information. Also things like, hey, if you traveled, we need your travel dates, right? Not providing any legal advice, but just saying, okay, we've got your travel dates. I'm going to give this to the legal practitioner. And one of the things that we do have a legal service agreement that comes up when people come into the portal, but also we discuss it with the applicants and we say, these are our roles. We're not going to provide any legal advice until you're referred to a legal practitioner. And so, trying to make it very clear where legal advice is being provided and not.
Okay, I think that cleared it up at least for me. Hopefully, they'll clear it up for other folks as well. There are a lot of questions about, is this service free? So is the website free? And then what about like the actual legal, if an applicant gets connected to somebody because they have a red flag or something like that and needs legal advice, is that free as well? Can you talk a little bit about the fee aspect of it?
Yes, and Gerardo, I'll let you take this one.
Absolutely. So Citizenshipworks is free, and the Citizenship Hub, this initial process where we meet with the clients, is free. Our legal partners do have the right to charge for their services.
So I think there's a limbo question. So the Citizenship Hub is free. Your review where you said you had 4 children, there are only 3 names. You need to add a 4th. That's free. Is the identification of red flag areas, is that free?
Yes.
Okay. But then if there is a red flag and you have to refer somebody out to a practicing attorney or somebody like that, that person has a right, when you kind of say, here's an issue, you really might want to talk to an attorney. Here are some people you may talk to. Those attorneys may charge. Is that correct?
That's correct. Not just for red flags, but for all applications. We refer all applications, whether they have red flags or not, to a legal practitioner to review, to make sure that the individual understands, the application, what they put in, and answer any questions. What we do typically, we have a process by which we match applicants with an organization. So some of our legal partners refer people into us. If they have capacity to take that person back, we refer them back to that organization, right? So this is a way for any of you who are also working at an organization that is DOJ recognized or has attorneys. This can really help with capacity. Say you have a high demand, you can refer them into the Citizenship Hub. We can work with them, and then when they're ready for that legal review, that organization can get them back. So it's working, to help increase that. The second thing that we look at is around geography, where the person's located. Do we have a legal partner in that space? And that's helpful for a variety of reasons. One, because after citizenship, there may be other immigration services the person wants to access. And so having an organization they can go back to and say, hey, do you also do family petitions? Can be very helpful. It also is helpful in terms of USCIS jurisdictions. Sometimes they know that, the officers that are there and that sort of thing. When a person when there is a legal partner that does charge, we ask all of our legal partners to let us know if they're charging and how much. And so we let the person know upfront, the applicant upfront, these are the legal review partners, partner we're looking to refer you to, these how much they charge or not. If there is, if the person cannot pay, we've had legal partners waive their fees for applicants. We've been able to refer folks. We do have legal partners that don't charge fees. So if a person's like, I can't, pay a fee for this, we can factor that into the referral process.
Okay, that makes sense. I think that's helpful. I think there are a couple of questions here that you kind of touched on. So I'm going to go ahead and ask them. So one is, what is the advantage of being a partner? And then kind of a specific one is, if we work at or with a DOJ recognized and accredited agency, and we have our own rep to review red flags on the N400, is it possible to have Citizenshipworks notify our rep instead of an IRC rep? And I think you just answered that, or at least kind of hinted at that. So can you talk about that, and then kind of what are the advantages to being a partner?
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, we have legal partners. So if an organization is a DOJ recognized organization or has attorneys, they can become a legal partner. And similarly to what I was describing before about, if you have applicants, being able to refer them in, the first place we check for, as a referral back is that same organization. So, hey, this applicant's ready. Do you have capacity currently to take them on? And so we can refer back. I think a few of the advantages to the partnership here. One is that helping connect applicants with legal experts in naturalization. We have about 14 legal partners who are, IRC offices and other organizations within the New Americans campaign that have been doing naturalization work for a few decades now. The New Americans campaign is, it just turned 10 last year, and it has helped over 500,000 individuals become US citizens. There's a lot of expertise there, and these are organizations that largely serve low-income immigrants, not exclusively, but that does tend to be the population that we serve. A lot of them do other social services as well. So these are, community-based NGOs. And then what the Citizenship Hub is doing is it's saying, we've got these legal experts in these locations. We've got LPRs in underserved areas, whether it's geographically, they're located in a state or a city that doesn't have a lot of providers, one, immigration attorneys at all, and two, nonprofits and organizations that don't cost a lot to be able to access these services. So, it's connecting people and being confident that when you refer your students to the Citizenship Hub, they're going to be connected with high quality legal services. And, a lot of times the IRC, we have civics and ESL classes in some of our offices. And so one of the things that we see is often students will come and they'll be working on their N400 and they'll ask the instructor, how do I fill this out? Here's my situation. How do I answer this question? Well, that's providing legal advice. And so that needs to come from an accredited rep or an attorney. And so it can be, I think, instructors want to be able to help their students, right? They want to help them become US citizens, but really can't answer those questions. And so this is a resource, a tool to be able to refer students who are asking those questions, who need that assistance of how do I answer this? It could be about a parking ticket. It could be about a marriage. It could be about anything, right? To a place where they can get support and assistance. Also, some applicants want and feel better with a legal practitioner reviewing their application, even when there isn't anything complex about it. Especially recently, we've seen a lot of hesitancy and trepidation and fear. There's been a lot of, controversy around legal services and immigration. And so having a look at it, because you are going before USCIS by a qualified legal practitioner, can be a reassurance for the student to assist them. So, I think those are all advantages to the students and to the instructors. I also think Citizenshipworks as a tool is really cool because it can also help with computer literacy. So used in a classroom with like, hey, there's this tool and going through it, it can help promote that computer literacy and comfort with technology. And I know a lot of USCIS offices now are using tablets for their writing and reading sections of the naturalization exam. So it's kind of an added bonus as well.
Okay, great. I think this is a pretty quick one. Are appointments in the client's first language beyond Spanish? So I know you said you have the English website and a Spanish version of the website, but if a person doesn't speak, if Spanish is not their first language, do you have, it doesn't sound like you have a website in other languages, but do you have appointments available where someone can speak languages other than Spanish? That's
a good question. And right now, the portal that we have in services are primarily in English and Spanish. If the person, so for naturalization, of course, the person, one of the requirements is that they speak conversational English. If the person qualifies for a waiver, we do have some funds where we can engage interpreters to assist with appointments as needed. We would just kind of handle that on a case by case, someone who comes into us, if they qualify for a waiver or if they speak English enough, but like aren't super comfortable with the technical terms, we are able to get an interpreter. We also, that's something that's very familiar to us because we do work with so many people. I think our immigration services, we served last year people from over 180 countries. So, interpretation is something that we do have access to through language line and in-person interpreters when that's, when we're in the office. Yeah. So I hope that answers that.
I think so. So we have a question from Anastasia. Can Citizenshipworks help with filling out the medical form? And I think she means the N648 form. She posted that later. That some people need to take the naturalization test in their native language, to not take the oral test, those sorts of things. So I know that there are accommodations in general that people can ask for with regard to the citizenship process. Do you help with those?
So the N648 medical form has to be completed by a medical doctor. In the situation of an N648, we would look for a provider in that area and refer that person to someone in their area who could assist them, because they would, that's not something that anyone outside of their doctor can do. And USCIS has brought a lot of scrutiny to N648s in the past several years. And that's something that we would want to be very mindful about handling that case and making sure it got to a partner or another service provider in that area who could assist. That's probably not the best case for a remote model.
Okay. That makes sense. And let me just take a minute to remind folks that the webinar is scheduled to be over at the top of the hour, so about 8 or 9 more minutes. So if you have questions, I encourage you to get them into the Q&A so that we can ask them to Gerardo and excuse me, Gerardo and Amber. But they have also agreed to kind of stick around past the top of the hour. So while we'll stop asking questions, they will stick around and be able to answer questions that are posted, and those will be included on the recording. So I encourage you to get the questions in. So Amber and Gerardo, kind of back to you guys. There were a couple of questions about DACA. So just in general, what about DACA? Do you help with DACA? One person says that many of their students registered for and received the 2-year work permit known as DACA. They keep paying for renewals. Do you know how they might, a place where they might direct them to, excuse me, for more information about trading a DACA card for something more permanent, or how a DACA person might transition into a regular citizenship application?
Yeah, so the individual with DACA would need to get a legal screening by an authorized legal practitioner to see what options they may have. And I do, the Immigration Advocates Network, I can pull it up, does have a list, a legal directory. I'll put this with the question, but also in the chat. Well, I can't find the question. I'm putting in the chat a link to Immigration Advocates Network legal directory. And so, depending on where you are in the country, click on your state, you'll see what organizations are there and what services they provide. But they, that individual just, it's a case by case. They'll need an in-depth legal screening to be able to see what they may be eligible for. And I would encourage, anyone who has students with DACA, if they have questions or you become aware of it, it's great to refer them to get screenings, because it is, it's not lawful permanent residence. It's not a permanent status.
Okay. We have a couple of questions. Well, I'm going to ask this one first. Do you help individuals who qualify for the 3-year rule? And I apologize, I'm not a citizenship expert, so some of these I'm not quite sure what the 3-year rule, for example, is, but I assume you will know what they're talking about.
I think so. I think they're talking about eligibility based on marriage. Because in that situation, you instead of having a green card or lawful permanent residence for 5 years, it's 3 years. And so in that case, yes, we do assist folks who qualify based on marriage and are eligible after 2 years and 9 months to apply.
Yeah, and that was what they were talking about. They followed up. It was marriage.
Great.
So we have a couple of questions about the actual interview, the test, and whether or not an applicant can have someone present during the interview or appointment. Do you help with that?
So that's a great question. And it depends on, so if an organization, a legal practitioner submits what's called a form G28 with the application, and they're representing the client, they are able and authorized to go with them to the appointment. But basically within the USCIS appointment, only representatives, so an attorney or DOJ accredited rep that's on file with a G28 representing that individual in that matter, or an interpreter if they need one and are eligible to have an interpreter, are able to be in the interview with them. The Citizenship Hub is largely a pro se model, and what pro se means is that the individual is submitting on their own behalf. Some of our legal partners do provide representation for the individual. Some legal partners do not. That is also something that we look for in terms of referring if the person wants representation and they're in an area where we have a legal partner, because that also requires that they be in the same geographic location, right? They're in the same area. And some of our applicants are in areas where there aren't any legal service providers that would be able to do that. So it kind of depends on what the legal partner is offering and what the applicant desires, and then the logistics of it as well.
Great. And we've had a lot of questions in the chat. So I just want to remind folks, we are recording. We will send out a follow-up email to all the folks that attended in about a week. It'll have a link to the recording of the webinar, as well as links to a lot of the resources that we've talked about here. And we've got a couple more minutes, so and a few more questions. So I'm going to just take this moment to say thank you for attending. If you do have to get off at the top of the hour, thank you very much for attending. Hope you wind up investigating and using this great resource, especially folks who might not be in a place where they have access to legal aid for your students that are trying to obtain citizenship. And for those of you who would like to stick around, we're going to cut off questions, but you're welcome to stick around and listen to the answers to the remaining questions that Gerardo and Amber provide. Okay, back to the questions. We have another one. So a student wants to complete the N400 form, and they've completed the application online with Citizenship Hub. Then they connect with an accredited representative to review the application. Does the accredited representative complete the G28 and then get further communication with the applicant as they continue through the process?
Yes, and that I think hopefully was answered in the last question, but it depends on the legal organization. The Citizenship Hub model is a pro se model. It's built to be pro se because of the goals around expanding access and making sure people are able to connect with legal providers that are not in their area for the lack of service providers. And so that is there. Some of our legal partners do provide representation. It also depends on the applicant if that's something that they are interested in and they're in a location with a legal partner where that's viable. So it kind of depends, but in general, they are pro se.
Okay. A couple of more questions. One, which I think is a great one, it kind of goes back to the hesitancy thing, I think, is how do you keep applicant information secure? Yes,
this is an important one. So Citizenshipworks is a secure platform. I'm not a tech person, so I cannot speak well to kind of the behind the scenes of it, but I can tell you that it's created by Pro Bono Net and the Immigration Advocates Network, both organizations that the IRC has worked with for years. Citizenshipworks in particular is supported and created with funding from the Carnegie Foundation, from the Grove Foundation. These are organizations that, we've worked very closely with to create this platform because we saw a need out there. And it is a secure platform. In terms of our own internal, we also have a lot of internal protocols in place around applicant information and sharing. So within the Citizenshipworks platform, for example, the applicant has to give permission. Once they're in our portal, we can see them. We don't share their information with that legal provider until they go in and say, yes, you can share this information with this organization. So, making sure we've got their okay on it, and then it's still within that secure platform that that information is being transferred. We do have some data keeping that we do on our end within the IRC, and we use Box, which is a secure platform, and we use a social solutions database, which again is a meets the confidentiality requirements. The other thing is that we're very clear from the onset that we work with the client, we work with the applicant. So we're not working with, you know, the applicant's sibling or parent or child. If the applicant says, hey,
or teacher,
or the teacher, exactly. We're not working with the instructor or the volunteer, however well-intentioned, you know, volunteer they are. We're working directly with the client, and that's to safeguard that individual client and their information. And to make sure that that line of communication is open and clear, that we're understanding and that they're understanding, and that's free flowing. And, you know, we're not playing a game of telephone, and that's really confidential information that's between that person and the IRC and their legal practitioner and rep. And so we do, try to put those safeguards in place, because confidentiality is definitely important.
Okay, great. Two more, one from Eileen, just asking, I'd appreciate more information about being a Citizenship Hub. I think she might mean a Citizenship Hub partner. So Eileen, I posted in the chat, reposted the link that Amber shared earlier about the partnership form. And then our last question, which I think I will be able to summarize this. So is there a screening for a situation like this? Someone who's 5 years LPR must take the test in English, but the applicant's English is at such a basic level that perhaps now is not a good time to apply. So you, Gerardo, talked about the screening process. Do you meet all of the resident requirements and things like that? But is there also, do you also do any screening for their English language level, where you might say, you know what, because one of the requirements is being able to speak basic conversational English, I don't know if your English is up to this level. Maybe you want to wait and work on that a little bit more.
Yes, this comes up, right? Especially people who are eager to apply and maybe have been working on English for a while, but it's still at that basic level. This has come up, and one of the, you know, a couple of ways this can come up is as we're working with the individual, kind of just doing that basic stuff, can they do it in English? And Gerardo is a fluent Spanish speaker, and often, you know, we'll be speaking, but we'll make a point to, okay, let's go through this in English so we can kind of see how that feels and where you're at. And our approach is to then, you know, explain the requirements around the English to the individual and provide resources as necessary. So referrals to ESL and civics classes and things like that. And I think the question also highlighted, there are some offices that have a higher bar and are more strict in that. And so that's also a place where we rely on our legal partners in different areas to say, hey, how is the USCIS at your office? And then they can also weigh in on the individual's English level and see if that's, you know, on par with other applications that they've submitted that have been approved or denied based on that English level, because that's one of the more, you know, common reasons for someone to get denied is around English, at least from the standpoint of being able to flag for other red flags and things like that. The English is a little bit more variable and is a great question because it will, you know, can lead to a denial.
Mm-hmm.
So we do try to address that as well.
Okay, great. And we've got one more question. I think it'll be a quick one, and then that'll wrap it up. It's from Amy, and she asked, does completing the application on the Citizenship Hub end or Citizenshipworks, does it end up with a completed N400 form, or is it like a draft that'll be completed fully with the legal aid?
And Gerardo, I'll let you take this one.
Yeah, so the citizenship application is completed through Citizenshipworks. Once it's completed, we refer, and everything is clear, we refer to a legal partner using Citizenshipworks. So the legal partner will review the application on Citizenshipworks and can then grant access to that application for the client.
Okay, so the bottom line is if they fill out the form all the way through on Citizenshipworks, when they get to the end, they've got a completed N400 form.
I believe that Citizenshipworks, and Amy is probably familiar with it because this question is a great question for those who have used it, because if a legal advocate takes over control of the application, and when I say control, I just mean starts making changes or edits to it, it will appear with a draft. You know, it'll say draft across the application, and it will not allow the person to do that until it's completed and cleared by a legal advocate. And it's the same, you know, because the Citizenship Hub is on Citizenshipworks, it's that same process. One of the things that we have been working with the technical team at Citizenshipworks on is making sure that those changes carry over. When Gerardo is working with the applicant, a lot of the changes that are made are being made by the applicant, right? Because we're doing the screening and we're saying, we're not giving legal advice, but we're saying, hey, add your address here, and how to do that. So a lot of times there's, you know, when it gets to the legal representative with that completed application, they'll be able to complete it and it will not have that draft on there. The applicant themselves will be able to print it out. That's one thing that we've been working with them on, because we want to make sure that applicant, once the application is complete and they're good to go, they're able to print it out and submit it.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. I think that answered the question. Okay, so that is all of our questions. I'd like to thank you both, Gerardo, Amber, for sharing the Citizenshipworks website and all the great resources that you did and answering everybody's questions. And just to remind people again, in about a week, we'll send you a follow-up email. It'll have a link to the recording, a link to Gerardo's slideshow, flyers and other materials you can use to share information about this resource with your tutors and other folks in your program, and a copy of the Q&A transcript and the chat transcript and a certificate. So all my attendees, thank you very much for attending. Have a great rest of the day. Gerardo and Amber, thank you very much for all the great information you've provided us.
Thank you so much, Todd. It was great to join you and everyone today.
All right.
Thank you so much for having us.
You're very welcome. Everybody take care. Have a great rest of the day.